There are moments in life when silence becomes louder than any scream, when the hum of fluorescent lights in a hospital corridor carries more weight than words ever could. That night, the corridor was long, sterile, and endless, like time itself had stopped to watch a tragedy unfold. I remember the girl first. Pink sweater, barely 8 years old. She was standing at the far end of the hallway, small fingers pressed against a glass door labeled intensive care, restricted access. Her eyes, wet with tears, reflected both fear and faith. A strange mixture only a child could hold. Her name was Emily. Behind that door was her father, a man who was never supposed to be there, a man caught in a storm of secrets buried beneath polished government floors and corporate alliances. They said it was a medical emergency. But nothing about this place felt like medicine. Emily had been running for hours before she found the janitor, a woman in her mid-40s, wearing a faded blue uniform, holding a mop and humming an old gospel tune. Her name tag said Marlene. She was just supposed to clean the floors, not save a life, but sometimes the universe picks ordinary people to do extraordinary things. When Emily tugged her sleeve and whispered, "Please help my dad." "They're killing him," Marlene froze. She looked down at the little girl, breath trembling, eyes wide, and something inside her broke open. The same feeling she'd buried years ago when her own son was taken by a system that called it justice. She didn't know the details. She didn't need to. She just knew that the fear in that child's eyes was real, and that was enough. That was where it began. A janitor, a little girl, and a corridor filled with secrets. As the clock struck midnight, the hospital changed. The nurses disappeared behind glass panels. The monitors flickered strangely, and the sound of rain hitting the roof above became a steady rhythm, almost like a countdown. Marlene's old radio, clipped to her belt, crackled to life, but there was no music, only static, and a faint whisper of voices coded beneath it. That's when she knew. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. She held Emily close and led her down the hall. The girl's tiny sneakers squeaked on the waxed tiles as they passed locked doors with names erased, rooms filled with equipment that looked more military than medical. Behind one frosted window, Marlene saw two men in dark coats, adjusting something on a monitor, something that didn't belong in a hospital at all. She whispered to Emily, "Don't make a sound." Outside, the city was asleep, neon lights painting the rain-soaked streets in streaks of red and blue. But inside was another world entirely, one built on experiments, silence, and denial. Marlene had worked this hospital for 12 years. She'd mopped its floors, cleaned its walls, and prayed for its patients. But she had never been to the sub-level. No one had. It was rumored to exist. Research Annex 9, they called it. And it was there, she realized, that Emily's father had been taken. She followed the faint sound of machinery beneath her feet. The elevators didn't go that low, but the stairwell, it did. They descended into the dark, each step echoing like a heartbeat. Emily clutched the folded photograph in her pocket. Her dad, smiling beside her at a fair, holding a cotton candy stick. Marlene noticed her hand shaking, so she said softly, "We'll find him, baby. I promise." For the first time, Emily believed her. When they reached the sub-basement door, there was no handle, just a retinal scanner. Glowing a cold blue, Marlene knew this wasn't just a hospital anymore, and she knew that helping Emily meant crossing a line that could never be uncrossed. The door hissed as if breathing. Thin blue light swept across the floor, tracing their shadows against the concrete. For a moment, Marlene hesitated. The retinal scanner was impossible until Emily stepped forward, eyes fixed on the machine. Her voice trembled. "My dad. He works here. He used to bring me sometimes. He said the light only knows truth. Before Marlene could stop her, Emily pressed her small palm against the scanner's glass. The light blinked, scanned, and then access granted. The door slid open with a sound like a sigh. Beyond it was a hallway colder than winter. Steel walls, no windows, and a smell like burnt plastic and antiseptic. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, flickering in rhythm with the hum of something mechanical. Alive, almost breathing. They moved slowly, Marlene holding Emily's hand, her other gripping the mop handle like a weapon. At the end of the hallway, they found it, observation room 9 inside. Behind a transparent wall, a man lay motionless on a table. Wires ran from his chest into machines glowing green and red. His face was bruised, pale, yet unmistakably filled with life, clinging to its last thread. Emily's whisper broke the silence. "Daddy." Marlene's throat tightened. She could hear the faint beep of the heart monitor. Irregular, slowing, and beside the bed stood a man in a white coat, tapping a tablet, his face lit by the glow of the screen. He was speaking softly to someone over the intercom. Phase 3. Extraction in progress. Subject showing high neural resistance. Prepare the override, Marlene's stomach dropped. Extraction? What were they extracting? She looked around and saw cages, small glass cubes, each one labeled with numbers, not names. Inside, a thin haze drifted, glowing faintly blue. The sign above them read, Conscious Memory Isolation Test Series B. Emily's father wasn't sick. He was being used. Marlene's hands trembled. She whispered, "Lord, forgive me," and then smashed the emergency lock panel with the mop handle. Sparks flew. The lights above dimmed. An alarm started to whine, low, mechanical, angry. The scientist turned sharply, eyes wide. What the hell Before he could react, Marlene dragged Emily into the room. The man tried to stop her, but she swung the mop into his chest with the force of a mother protecting her own child. He stumbled, fell against a tray of instruments, and the alarm blared louder. Emily ran to the table. Daddy, wake up!" His eyes fluttered, a faint smile broken by exhaustion. "Emily? You shouldn't be here." Tears filled her eyes. "They said you were sick." He tried to speak, but the pain stole his breath. "No, not sick. They're taking memories, making people forget who they are. Testing, control." Marlene unplugged cables blindly, pulling wires until the machine screamed. The room filled with chaos, red lights flashing, alarms echoing down the hall. Security footsteps thundered above. Emily's father gasped, barely able to lift his head. "You need to go now," Marlene refused. "No one's leaving you behind." She glanced around, a ventilation shaft, barely wide enough for Emily and maybe her father if dragged. She ripped open the grate, motioned for Emily. "Go first." Emily climbed in, crying softly. "Please come, Daddy." The father tried to rise. He fell once, twice, until Marlene caught his arm and pulled with everything she had left. The sound of boots grew louder. Voices shouted, radios crackled. "Containment breach, key, sub-level 9. She pushed them both into the vent. "Go, don't stop!" Then she climbed after, heart pounding, lungs burning. The vent was dark and narrow, metal scraping, breath echoing. The sound of pursuit followed close behind. But ahead was a faint glimmer of light. They crawled until they reached another grate, overlooking a dim garage filled with vans and armed men. Marlene whispered, "We wait. And when they move, we run." Emily looked back at her father, his face pale, sweat glistening. "Daddy, are you okay?" He nodded weakly. "I'll be okay. I just need the truth to see daylight." Outside, thunder rolled across the night. Rain hammered the world above like applause for their courage, or warning for what was coming. Marlene exhaled. This isn't over. The man met her eyes.
No, it's just beginning. The storm outside grew violent.
The truth below was rising, and somewhere between those two worlds, a janitor, a father,
and a little girl began their fight for freedom. The first thing Emily heard was thunder, not the kind that rolls softly across the sky, but the kind that shakes your bones.
That sounds like the world breaking apart. The vent opened into a cold, wet alley behind the facility. Neon reflections from downtown Los Angeles flickered across puddles, cutting through the darkness in streaks of red and blue. Rain poured hard, relentless, washing the night clean of all but truth. Marlene dropped first, landing hard on the wet asphalt. She looked up. "Come on, baby, quick." Emily slid through next, helping her father down. He stumbled, one leg trembling, the cold air slicing into him. Blood mixed with rain on his arm. The same arm that had been wired moments ago in that room of ghosts. "Dad," Emily whispered, holding his hand tight. "We have to keep moving," he nodded, forcing his breath steady. "They'll track us. The sensors in the implants." Marlene cut him off, already pulling a rusted metal rod from the ground.
"Then we get rid of them." She smashed the tracking chip panel embedded in his shoulder. Sparks hissed. A small flash and he cried out. "Sorry," she whispered.
"But it's better than dying in there." He nodded through the pain.
"Thank you."
"For helping us. Don't thank me yet," she said. "We're not free." They ran. The alley stretched into a maze of fire escapes, dumpsters, and the hum of electricity. Sirens began to wail somewhere far behind, then closer. Helicopters cut through the clouds, searchlights flashing like angry eyes. Marlene knew the city's underbelly. She'd mopped every inch of it for years. Abandoned subways, tunnels left from before the quake. She knew where ghosts hid. They ducked into a narrow stairwell beneath a flickering sign that read, "Closed for renovation." As they descended, the noise of the city faded until only their breathing remained. Inside the tunnel, the air was heavy with dust and history. Old graffiti glowed faintly under their flashlight, names of the forgotten. Emily's small voice echoed, "Why are they doing this?" Her father hesitated. "Because they can't control memories, so they want to own them." They found a way to extract the emotional core of a person, the thing that makes you you. They were testing it on me, to erase resistance. Marlene looked at him. "You mean they can steal a person's mind?" "Worse," he said quietly. "They can rewrite it." A silence followed, the kind that feels too big for words. Emily walked ahead, flashlight trembling in her hands, tears hidden by rain and shadows. Then came the sound. Footsteps, not theirs. Marlene motioned for them to stop. The tunnel ahead flickered with movement, two figures, armed, scanning with thermal goggles. She whispered, "Hide!" They pressed into an alcove behind a rusted control box. The guards' voices echoed faintly. They can't have gone far. "Command wants the girl alive," and the father, "Alive, for now." The lights swept past their hiding place. One beam caught Marlene's shoe. But just as it lingered, thunder rumbled above, drowning everything for a heartbeat. When it faded, the guards were gone. Marlene exhaled slowly. "Let's move." They reached an old maintenance door, sealed by time. Her father, weak but determined, used a broken wrench to twist the lock free. The door groaned open, revealing a forgotten subway tunnel filled with murky water and a faint blue glow ahead. Marlene squinted. "What is that?" The main relay, he said. If I can reach it, I can erase every record they have, but it'll trigger every alarm. You'll die if you go back, she said. He smiled faintly. I almost did already. Emily grabbed his sleeve. No, you can't. We can just run away. He knelt down, his hands on her shoulders. Sweetheart, if we run, they'll keep doing it. To others, to families like ours. I have to stop them. Tears ran down her cheeks, mixing with rain. You promised you'd come home. He smiled softly. And I will. Just not tonight. Marlene turned away, her eyes wet. If you're going, I'm not letting you go alone. He met her gaze. You've already done enough. I'll decide that, she said, gripping the flashlight like a weapon. Let's end this. They followed the current toward the glowing core, a submerged power hub beneath the lab. Cables hissed, electricity danced in arcs across the water. The machines hummed, echoing like a heartbeat too loud for the world. He opened a panel and began typing commands into the ancient console. Lines of code appeared on the cracked display. Memory Cluster 47, purge initiated. Suddenly, loudspeakers roared above them. Unauthorized access detected. Seal the sub-level.
Neutralize all intruders! Floodlights burst on. Dozens of red laser sights pierced through the mist. Marlene shoved Emily behind a pillar. Stay down! Gunfire erupted, loud, metallic, echoing. Marlene ducked, firing back with a stolen sidearm she'd grabbed from the guard earlier.
Sparks flew. The father kept typing, ignoring the bullets tearing through pipes above his head. Progress, 75%, 82%, he shouted over the chaos. When this hits 100, everything they've done, gone. They'll lose it all. Marlene shouted. Then finish it. A bullet grazed her shoulder. She winced, bit back the screen, kept firing. Emily cried out, Dad! The screen blinked. 99%. He turned to them, a faint smile, relief shining through the blood on his face. 100% complete. Memory systems wiped. Then silence. Every light flickered. Every sound died. The hum of the machine stopped, replaced by a deep, pulsing quiet. He staggered back, gasping. It's done! Marlene rushed to his side as the tunnel began to collapse. Water burst through cracks. Steam filled the air. They dragged him toward the surface. They emerged into the storm, the city now alive with chaos, sirens, distant explosions, the network collapsing from within. Screens across the streets glitched, flashing static, then went dark. Emily held her father's face in her hands. Daddy, please stay with me. He smiled faintly. You did good, baby. You were brave. His eyes began to close. Marlene pressed her hands on his chest. No, stay with us, damn it. He coughed, breath returning weakly. I'm here. I'm not done yet. She laughed through tears. Good, because you still owe me a coffee. For the first time that night, Emily smiled. Small, trembling, but real. Hours later, dawn broke. They sat by the pier, watching the grey sky turn gold. Emily's head rested on her father's shoulder. Marlene leaned back, exhausted but alive. He looked out over the horizon. They'll come back, won't they? Marlene nodded slowly. Maybe, but this time, the world's watching, he smiled. Then maybe the world still has a chance. The sun rose higher, burning through the clouds. A new day beginning not with peace, but with truth. Emily whispered softly, as if to the wind. We saved you, Daddy, but maybe you saved all of us. And for the first time in forever, silence felt like freedom.